There we go. Let's stand and sing our patriotic song this morning, America the Beautiful. Thank you, Sue. Our invocation this morning is by Jeff Tintle.
Okay. Dear Lord, we thank you for bringing us together safely this morning. We thank you for the Emmaus Rotary Club and for Rotarians all around the world for the projects that we work on and those that have blessed us. We ask that you would continue to bless our group, allow us to impact those around us and make our world better. We ask everything in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Alexa, any visitors or guests this morning?
Our speaker has brought his spouse with him.
It is the first Thursday of the month where we are in this building and not in strange surroundings. So we are going to do our birthday celebration today.
We have some birthdays for February. In fact, quite a few here. Eileen Brokoff, if you stand up, please. Sal, Brasto, Jim Bacher, Mark Earl, please stand up. Richard Ward, please stand up. Mario, is Mario here today? No. Nancy Berlin, Steve LaPierre, and Peter Adams. These are our February birthdays. We'll sing.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rotarians. Happy birthday to you. And they live down in our valley.
All right.
Happy birthday, everyone. So I almost feel like we should sing another song. Carl, you're wearing your shirt today, except I don't know all the words to Fly Eagles Fly. I guess that guy didn't grow up here, so I apologize. But I'm sure the rest of you can just sort of sing it in your mind, I guess. Congratulations to all Eagles fans. Finally, they brought the Lombardi Trophy to Philly. And even if you're not an Eagles fan, I think everybody in this room probably pretty much pulls that way, except Larry DeHagen's not here. Anyway, those of us who aren't Eagles fans are still happy that somebody other than the Patriots wants.
Yes.
It's also really good to be back here at Brookside. The Panera breakfast at Smooth On was great, and the pizza, Mike, last week, thank you very much. That was terrific. But there's nothing like the Brookside buffet and Robert's smiling face and Taylor's smiling face. It's really nice to be back in our very comfortable surroundings, isn't it? So I'm glad we're back here. I'd like to welcome our newest member who just put something in her mouth. So, Diana Fenstermacher was voted in to be a member, I guess last week. So this is your first official meeting. Welcome. Thank you. Couple of quick announcements. Next Tuesday night is the Shrove Tuesday Pancake Supper at Superior Diner, 5:30, $5 a person. Please come out and join us. It's always a fun event. Usually lots of families with kids, and it's an energetic time. So hopefully the weather will cooperate more than it has over the last couple of years on that night. But anyway, that's this coming Tuesday at 5:30, February 13th. A couple of other announcements. Eileen, do you want to mention the Angel Network collection effort we're doing?
The Angel Network is doing their spring collection for food baskets, and they've put us on the list for instant potatoes. So your collection this time is instant potatoes.
Do we have a target number of boxes we're trying to get?
I think we're to hit around 90.
90 boxes of instant potatoes. Doesn't sound too tough.
Yeah, and I think that there are some that are just in packets that you don't have to do a box. So whatever you do,
Shows how much I know.
we picked instant potatoes this time.
Thank you for coordinating that, Eileen. I'm sure we can count on everyone. We're going to do that. We're going to collect through the March 15th meeting.
Yes.
So I guess we got about 4 or 5 meetings to begin collecting that. So thank you for coordinating that, Eileen. Rose, you have an announcement as well?
Yes, I'm actually going to skip a little bit with a happy dollar to let everybody know that Alicia's daughter did have her baby. Healthy, everybody's doing well. So she's the chairperson of the committee that David Dunn and I are working on, which is the International Women's Day Awards. We are going to have 2 awards, one for a fellow Rotarian and one for a community member. If I did not give you an envelope, please come find me at the end. What we're asking for in those envelopes is a nomination from you of somebody in the community that fits the criteria that we set forth in that letter. Any participation or anybody you can think of, we'd greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, and thanks to that committee for the work you're doing on recognition. Bob.
Happily, there was a big party at the Super Bowl at one of our members' houses who was here. And I don't know how they could drink that much beer. They brought me a whole gallon plus 2 more bags that wouldn't fit in the gallon. I have a gallon home that's getting full. So it looks like by the time the Miracle Egg comes around, we'll have 3 gallons of tabs and not. So if you haven't brought your tabs in, you aren't saving them, keep saving them because we can't have too many of them. And I appreciate the person who brought this in, who swore to be nameless.
Bob, some of us were curious. How much value is in it? You know, it's like.
Well, last year, I don't know how many the DuPont Children's Hospital got. That's where they take them. But they have a Ronald McDonald's house there. That's where they give them. Several other organizations do it, but some of the Miracle Eggs do it. And last year, they got enough money from the tab. They sell them. I'm trying to figure out exactly where they sell them. But they got enough money to pay for the electric and utilities at the Ronald McDonald's house for a year, just for selling these tabs. So and everybody throws them away. Most people don't even take them off the can, you know. But my son and I have been saving them for a while. It takes us about 2 years to get a gallon, but we're working on our 3rd gallon now. So thank you very much to the anonymous person who donated.
Any announcements from anyone else? Jim?
Just dues are due, and we go down to the last couple people. Thank you, everybody.
How about if you didn't get a notice?
I put a flyer on your table. The Friends of the Emmaus Library, who support the Emmaus Public Library in Emmaus, we're doing a Books and Beer on Wednesday, March 7th. It's a way to get out of the house, talk about books, have some good appetizers and a few beers, you know, get the winter blues out of the way. Tickets are $5. You can buy them at the library in Emmaus, or talk to me about it and I'll get you the tickets. It's at Yergi's Brewing, so the $5 gets you appetizer, gets you in and all that, a seat inside. The beer you have to buy pay for yourself. And ask them to save the whatchamacallits to give to Bob there, the tag, right? So again, March 7th.
Where is
Thank
it,
you.
Joe? Where?
It's at Yergi Brewing. I know Yergi Brewing is in Emmaus. I'm not exactly sure where it is.
It's Railroad Avenue.
Right off Railroad.
Yeah, it's
Lots of different ways.
Okay, all right, good. Well, I'll have to go because I haven't been there yet. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Okay, Lexa, you've got our raffle this morning.
I hope to make amends by asking Dawn to draw the first ticket.
Not unless he's in Dick
The
Harvey.
last 3 numbers are 3, 3, 8.
We love it.
You forgot to take it.
Again?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
This is a lucky one. This is 331.
Oh. That's so funny. Okay, want to draw one?
Karen, Karen, here's the number.
All right.
327.
All right.
All right.
Yeah. Beer money.
Nice.
Yeah, hold that. There you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
323.
Put your hand up before the number is even called.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Alexa, and congratulations to all the winners. Phil Erdman, you wanted to come up and make a presentation, I believe.
Good morning, everybody. For those that were here 3 or 4 weeks ago, you'll recall we had a Paul Harris presentation, and there were quite a few members that got Paul Harris awards. Carl Franz was not here, so what I'd like to do now is present that Paul Harris to Carl, if you want to come, please. And this is a Paul Harris Plus too. So Carl, on behalf of the Rotary Foundation, we thank you for your support, and again, it's a Paul Harris Plus 2.
Congratulations, Carl, and thank you for your generosity to the foundation. We are without a sergeant at arms this morning, so we will forego fines, but I expect a healthy dose of happy hours. And Alexa, lead us off.
I have $2 because I was happy my brother agreed to watch the Super Bowl with me because he knows the players, the plays, and the penalties. So he knew the razzle-dazzle of Foles being in the end zone before I even knew what had happened.
Sal.
I have 8 happy dollars for each point that they beat those pesky Patriots.
Lisa.
Okay, my math will not make sense, but that's okay. So I have 15 happy dollars. So 9 plus 2. So my dad turned 92 last week. So rather than giving 92-year-old like, okay, give more next time, and I will. So 9 plus 2 for my dad. The beautiful thing about my dad, so he's had Alzheimer's since he was in his 50s, and so sometimes he has no clue what's going on. But when we went to sing him happy birthday, which we always do and everything, out of nowhere, not that he knew me, but he knew he loved me. I'm gonna cry. And it was just like on that day, he was just so present and in the moment, it was in it. It was really awesome. Okay. So the other $2, another $2 are the next 2. So we have our grandkids this week. Their parents are in Capo, whatever that is. I don't even know where it is. And one's in high school, one's in middle school. $2 to each of them. One's 2 for Charlie and 2 for Aiden. Everyone warns us, you know, oh, the parents, oh, you're never going to make it through the week. They're awful, they're terrible, they kill each other. They have been blessed. They have been absolutely amazing, and we just had a really great time. So here's the family, and I'll stop.
On Monday, we had a conference call with Lexa when she was at her brother's. And I was just thankful we got her out of her pajamas.
Well, I was an Eagles season ticket holder. I had 5 tickets for 12 years when they were at Franklin Field. And when they raised the price, when they got to the new stadium, they raised the price from $35 a ticket to $60 a ticket. And you also had to buy the 3 pre-season games at the same price. So I said, well, that's the end of that. I'm not paying, you know, $800 for all these tickets I'm buying. So I still been rooting for the Eagles, and thank goodness it was a big Super Bowl, because not to be named member had a party and we got it in. So everybody bring your tickets in next week, your tabs in, I should say. And it looks like we'll end up with at least 2 and maybe 3 full jugs. So thanks to the Eagles, and good for the Eagles.
I would just like to say, I spent the weekend by myself, but I had a great time Friday and Saturday night with the Snow Blast in Emmaus. Mike Wardell put on a great show, so did Terry Song, that man, and so it was pretty good weekend. So there was lots of stores all open. So maybe next year, hopefully next year they'll put it on. But it was a very good show. But,
Joe? It's 76 degrees, it'll be 76 degrees in St. Pete, Florida today. I'll be down there later on today, so another way to knock the winter blues out. I'll be back in a couple of weeks.
Eileen?
Well, I have 2 questionable dollars. I moved 2 weeks ago, and the other $2 are because I can't find my pins.
That's the problem moving.
And as a Philadelphian, I bleed green.
Thank you. Any others? Yeah.
I have 3 happy dollars. In January, we got to fly into summertime. We went to Chile with our children and my wife, and had a wonderful time.
Okay. Thanks, everyone, for contributing. Jim, go ahead.
As a stand-in secretary who does the treasurer's work when he's not here, somebody collect the happy dollars, will you? Oh, Rick's already on it.
Thanks for being on the spot there, Greg. Okay, our speaker this morning is no stranger to us. He is our club secretary. He's a member of the Rotary Action Group for Peace, and that's the topic he's going to be speaking on today. So I'll turn the podium over to Jim Palmquist.
Good. Thank you. Well, I've got a great story to tell you today, and I hope you enjoy it quite a bit. So the topic in the trumpet was called, Could War End in This Century? The subtopic is, does Rotary have a leading role? And I'm going to tell you that I do think Rotary does have a leading role. I'm calling this peace building in our district alone. So we're near the end of polio. We started the polio battle in the 80s, 87 I think. It's been a wonderful gift to the world. We're 99.98% complete. We are close, and it's a stunning accomplishment. In 1988, there were 350,000 cases of polio in the world by the World Health Organization, 1/3 cases. In 2016, there were 37 cases. That's 99.98%, meaning 10 million kids haven't gotten polio since we've gotten involved in this, which is one of the most stunning things a service organization could do in the history of the world, I think. But so in my talk today isn't so much about that, it's what's next. And I hear people say that maybe we ought to talk about water and sanitation. And I can tell you, if we move forward with another major program like polio, it's going to be out of one of these 6 areas probably. These are the 6 areas of focus that Rotary projects always are centered around. They're either in water and sanitation, disease prevention, maternal health, basic education, economic development, or peace and conflict resolution. And I can tell you that in our club, I've seen the top 5 categories. We've had projects in all these categories and a lot of different things. But one of the things I think is interesting is you hardly ever see projects in peace and conflict prevention resolution. We say that maternal health leads to peace, and it does. Water's availability leads to peace, but you can actually work on peace and conflict resolution, and that's what I want to talk about today. And one of the key thoughts I want to leave you with, and this comes from the Rotary convention last year. Bert and others were in the room when Peter Kyle made this message, and I went back and checked the data. We're not the leading non-governmental operator in any of these 5 areas. We just aren't. The biggest players in disease and maternal health and basic education are other organizations. And we don't have to be the biggest. We're using these resources to execute our programs. But what I'm saying today is that we could be the leaders in peace. And I'll tell you why. We could be the world-leading organization, a world-leading organization in peace and conflict resolution because our clubs are all over the world. We're made up of community leaders. We have a passion for collaboration and goodwill and trust. We can make connections with people we don't even know anywhere in the world, set up a project and execute it just because we're in Rotary and we have structures to support that. We have the respect of international bodies like the United Nations and the EU and all that kind of stuff. We have competent fundraising capabilities. We have strong processes to complete projects. It's a pain in the neck to do a project with Rotary because of the requirements, the sustainability, and all the issues, but we're very competent at that. We've been building peace for decades, and I'll come back to that in a little bit. We've done exchanges for over 100,000 people. Over the whole history of Rotary, we've been exchanging people culture to culture. And I'm saying that's one of the strongest ways to build peace. I've spent some time with the Romanians on the exchange. When you know Romanians, it's hard to fight with them. You understand them. And we also have partner organizations that support our resources, give us resources where when we don't actually have the resources in our own scope of work. But I want to do a little bit on the other thing I forgot what I was going to say here. So again, we're connected to peace-building global organizations like MED. We've trained 1,000 peace scholars. We've trained 1,000 people with either a master's degree training at one of 4 universities in the world or a certificate, a 3-month certificate in Thailand. And they're working today in the world, bringing peace all over the place. One of them is a police sergeant in Philadelphia, police force using peace-building techniques. We do have a Rotary Action Group, and I'll say a little bit more about that. We do have a Rotary Action Group trying to focus all this energy. And again, we do have partners in this effort, and one of them is Mediators Beyond Borders. But I thought I'd give you some definitions, because peace building and peace, all this is a little fuzzy, right? Peacekeeping is keeping warring units of countries apart or entities apart. This is like the blue helmets from the UN. They go in, they stand between fighting forces, basically. Peacemaking is resolution of conflicts. And that's things like when Jimmy Carter did the Camp David Accords with Anwar Sadat and Menachem Begin in the 70s, where they actually had a settlement of conflict between Israel and Egypt that's been a blessing for those people. I'm not talking about those two things. I'm talking about peace building, which is restoring normal relations between people, reconciliation of differences, and the establishment of a cooperative relationship. This is expanding the capacity of communities, organizations, and countries to resolve and prevent conflicts. So my question to you, though, just for a moment is, why is now a good time for Rotary to engage here? Does anybody have any ideas about that? Why would this be a good time for Rotary to focus on peace building as its core goal for the future? Well, I'll give you a clue. The end of war is possible in this century. There are many things, I'm going to go through a few of them, and I'm going to show you a video in a minute to go through a few more. There are many things going on in the world right now that are leading to the conclusion we could have the end of war. This comes out of a book called From War to Peace, A Guide to the Next 100 Years by Kent Schiffer, written in 2011. And though war is in the news every day, we live in a more peaceful time than ever before in recorded history. Some of the things that are focusing us on the potential of ending war are things like global institutions, United Nations. We're realizing that nonviolence is more effective than armed resistance in changing societies. Aren't we realizing that big time? In Afghanistan and Iraq, we bombed the hell out of everybody over there, and the war continues. We got it in Paris, we got it in New York, we got it all over the world. So you can't bomb your way to peace, and people are figuring that out. What you can do is you can bomb people to the point they're suppressed, but they're out in the weeds waiting to come back and get you. There are proliferation of programs like the Rotary Peace Scholars Program, and universities all over the world. There are peace centers, and many universities have those now. One of the key issues is the economics of war over the economics of peace is driving a peace movement. It costs so much to destroy the city of Homs and Mosul, but there's no money to rebuild those cities. I mean, the downtowns of those cities are just uninhabitable. I mean, there's no infrastructure at all. No buildings, no water, no heat, no electric, no anything. And the expense to rebuild after war is so expensive after you spend a fortune destroying it in war. The Iraq and Afghanistan war, some people say it's $2 trillion. It could be as much as $6 trillion 50 years from now after you pay for all the medical care for all the people that are being cared for until they die. The federal government budget's only $3.5 trillion, so we might have spent $6 trillion over the life of those two wars on a government that only has $3.5 trillion spending a year, so it's a phenomenal expense. There are no country-to-country wars going on in the world right now today. And you remember in Colombia, the FARC, they actually negotiated a peace settlement for years, decades. There have been revolutionaries in Colombia fighting, and they negotiated a peace settlement. And there's also one of those settlements in Aceh in Indonesia that's just recently completed. How about the tribunals and the world courts? How about guys like the Bosnian Serb Radovan Karadzic, genocide, just convicted, and we had Milosevic, who was died in prison but being prosecuted for war crimes. So there's a lot of things that are happening that are saying that people are getting resistant to war, and war could end in this century. Another thing that a lot of people don't realize, in 1981, 1 in 2 people in the world lived on less than $1 a day, which is arch poverty. This isn't poverty, this is the worst poverty. Half the world lived on $1 a day. In 2011, 1 in 6 lived at below $1 a day. So 2/3 of the people that were living in arch poverty are no longer living in arch poverty. They're still in poverty. But that progression is continuing. And I'll just say a second on this, and that is, there's a technology called alternate dispute resolution, mediation, a lot of related terms. It's not a mature science, it's a developing science, but it's growing geometrically. There are organizations used to track the number of interventions. In the 70s, there were handfuls. Now there's, well, in the 2000s, there were thousands a year going on, and this is continuing to grow. I want to show you a quick video that I showed a few months ago, but I do want to show it again, if I can get my mouse working here, because I think it really sends a good message. Give me a second here to fire it up here. Technology is always a struggle. Where's my stuff here? Keep going here. Come on. I'm sorry. I've got a PC that's got the message, but I don't have it on the screen. It was on the screen in 20 minutes before the meeting. Why isn't this working? Well, anyway,
Here comes your help.
I don't know.
Here comes the help desk.
The other button.
I don't know. It worked an hour ago, so I'm doing VGAN.
Get the army in
It
here.
was just because you changed from one screen to the other.
Get a woman in here.
Maybe lost on that.
All right, well, maybe I'll continue on. It worked here at 7 o'clock this morning. But anyway, it's a great video, and it's put together by the Rotary Action Group for Peace. I'll tell you a little more, again, more about that in a minute. I wanted to go into, are you going to be able to get it? Because I'm going to go back to my slides if we're not. Why don't you go ahead and, well, go ahead and try it. I'll just work off my handwritten script. I thought I'd tell you what Emmaus Rotary Club is doing in peace building. I've been storing it up on the foundation committee, a lot of you know, and the last Rotary year we supported a mediation project in Colombia. 30 women from 5 countries in Central and South America were trained last year, a week's training with Mediators Beyond Borders, which are culturally competent local mediator trainers. And they've gone into their countries and are doing mediation. They're going to come back later on this year for an advanced week of training. So that's on its way. This year we're supporting a project in Kenya, and it's about there's a conflict, inter-tribal conflict in Kenya going on that we're going to be putting a small amount of $1,000 into, along with many other clubs. These are vocational training teams. We actually train people to build skills. And the other thing, I don't have a slide for this, but we've been invited to be the international sponsor of a project in Nigeria, a 5-country peacekeeping adventure, and the club, I think, is supportive. We haven't made a decision, but the district has to decide if they'll support it before we can. So we might very well be international sponsor on a project. Not doing it? All right, well, let's go back to well, it must be the source problem. No, technology. I'm fed up with technology. I don't know what it has something to do with.
Did you switch anything?
No, I mean it's specific. I can work off of. Yeah, I just work off the notes. So anyway, so we have 2 projects we supported, and there's a 3rd one we might get involved in. And by the way, one of the things about Rotary is we measure the results of these projects. So you see reporting as to how effective they were, because that peace building has to be evidence-based. So what am I doing involved with this project? I've been on the International and Foundation Committee for years, and I've been pushing for the last couple of years to do a peace project every year to keep our fingers in peace building. I hope to get the district conference to include this talk, by the way, so we'll actually have a lot of other clubs expose this information. In 2016, I dropped in on the Rotary Action Group for Peace offices in Portland, Oregon. So sort of coincidental thing that spent a couple hours with them and got to know their operation. In 2017, my wife and I went out and spent an afternoon with the fellow who links Mediators Beyond Borders to Rotary. He's a past Rotary Club president, a mediator, and a mediator manager. So I'm working with him, and I've always had an interest in facilitation and group problem solving, not so much mediation. But I'm going to go for a week's training in mediation later on this month in LA with the founder of Mediators Beyond Borders. So I'm getting really involved in this, and I hope to get this talk out to other clubs. And my call to action, which is on the screen at some point, but technology, I don't know, it's ridiculous. I'd encourage you to consider joining the Rotary Action Group for Peace.org. It costs like $30 a year. They put out an interesting journal 4 times a year. A Peace Science Digest comes with this with a membership. They have a map that shows all the people involved in the peace movement in Rotary globally. So you can go in and find my name. You can find actual peace scholars that are working on projects and that kind of stuff. I'm encouraging every club in our district to take on a peace project every year, because I think this is a real opportunity for Rotary to exceed. Rotary recommends we have a peace chair in the club. I'm not sure we need that yet, but we'll work on that. There are peace events associated with the annual convention of Rotary. I've never been to a Rotary convention, but I'm going this year, and the day before the convention, this year and last year, and Bert was at it among others, there was a conference where a lot of these things are being discussed. And I encourage you to read this book by, maybe I'll send it out in the notes for the event today. This war between war and peace in the next 100 years. There are several people in the club that expressed interest in this, and that's Gary Rohrbach, Dee Ing, Bert, and Eric Locke, who expressed interest in this. And if you want to be connected to this, give me your email, and I'm not going to send you a lot of emails, but I'll try and keep you posted what's going on. And my closing, a little earlier than I expected, but it is what it is I'd encourage you all to support us getting involved in peace building, because it's a real opportunity for Rotary to have an impact in the world that is so phenomenal, it's even bigger than polio, I think. Are there any questions or any comments? Yeah, Bill?
Comment or suggestion and question. You could put the contact information for that Rotary
Action Group for Peace
in the trumpet.
Okay,
People
we'll
are
do it.
interested. In terms of the investigation stuff and analyzing peace and future what's going on, do they consider the flat world electronically in terms of cell phones? Is that positive or negative as it relates to the creation of peace in the long run?
Well, I don't know. What they're really talking about is getting people into conversations that are genuine and deep, and not so much what the technology is, but really trying to get conversations and communications that break down barriers. We all know, those of you, all of you are sophisticated enough to know that when you meet strangers, at first they're different, and then you realize they're the same as you. I mean, my wife and I spent 2 weeks in New Zealand. Of course, New Zealanders are almost identical to us, but the Romanians were quite different, and you've all had, a lot of you have had experiences where you realize people are all the same, and you can be resistant to the color of their skin or their religion or their ethnic background, but they're actually all the same, and that's what peace building is about, is to try and get down to some basic
I guess
issues.
my thinking is that connectivity allows that communication to a much greater extent than it ever occurred in the past.
Yeah.
So I would think it's a benefit.
Most of the peace building I've seen has been face-to-face, mediators, alternate dispute resolution techniques done in a face-to-face environment. Though there may be going on, there's a lot to it, I don't know. Joe, did you?
Yeah, you said we're all the same. My wife is Brazilian, and she's totally different from me. So, but I guess, isn't part of human nature that we have that conflict?
I'm sorry, Joe. This is right here. We might be, I apologize. No end to
There it is.
technological problems.
All
There
right.
you go. It's a,
I have a great speaker here. She has to start.
Let's be honest, the world can seem scary. Poverty, disease, corruption, pollution. The problems just seem too overwhelming, too big. You are just one person. Not if you are a Rotarian. You are part of a club, part of a district, part of an international network of 1.2 million Rotarians in 35,000 towns in 200 nations. This makes you part of the largest and most impactful service organization in the world. As Rotarians, you have roughly the same human power as the world's most powerful militaries, but you are woven into the fabric of the community. Rotary as a global organization connects you with a network of passionate community leaders focused on positive change through service and the four-way test. Rotary's 6 areas of focus strengthen that network into a powerful force for peace. So, what if we started thinking about Rotary as more than a collection of service jobs and just started thinking of ourselves as a global peace-building force? What if together we wage peace? Just imagine Rotarians building a world beyond war. But first, some background. Did you know that we are living in the most peaceful period in human history? Wars are less common and kill less people. Violence against women and children is the lowest in history. Homicides have decreased dramatically in much of the world. Genocide and other civilian killings are less prevalent. The number of democracies is increasing every year. People are living longer, healthier lives. Girls are getting a better education. And human rights are recognized in much of the world as a cornerstone of basic governance. The world is not falling apart as the media might lead us to believe. In fact, measurable trends support the emergence of a global peace system that today rivals the global war system. Trends that led to the development of international institutions like the United Nations aimed at preventing war. Trends about the protection of civilians. Trends proving nonviolence is more effective than armed resistance. Trends toward the proliferation of peace education. Trends favoring the economics of peace over the economics of war. And trends leading to the flourishing of international law, treaties, and courts. So what if we changed our mindset as Rotarians to match the current realities, the current science? The good news is, Rotary already set us up for success with the 6 areas of focus. When you build economic opportunity for communities, Rotary builds peace. When you provide education where education is not available, Rotary builds peace. When you provide clean water and sanitary conditions, Rotary builds peace. When you improve on the health of women and children, Rotary builds peace. When you prevent and treat disease, Rotary builds peace. And when you focus specifically on peace and conflict prevention and resolution, as a cornerstone of your club's activities, Rotary directly builds peace. We are this close to ending polio, but what's next? For over 100 years, Rotarians have been advancing understanding, goodwill, and peace through their service work. Now with the Peace Area of Focus and network of over 1,000 Rotary Peace Fellows, we're ready to take it to the next level. Peace building is about community building. We're ready to train leaders, including youth, to build peace and to prevent and mediate conflict. Convene people and resources to increase the peace-building impact of Rotary service projects in all areas of focus. Empower Rotarians everywhere to create sustainable peace-building in communities and regions affected by conflict and more. You are a Rotarian, and you build peace. This is your call to action. Start a peace committee in your club. Volunteer to be the peace chair for your district. It is a Rotary-supported position. Support the Rotary Peace Centers by recruiting qualified candidates. You can lead your club to engage in at least one service project annually that promotes nonviolence or raises understanding of the root causes of violence. You can start by joining a Rotarian Action Group. Through the Rotarian Action Group for Peace Hub MAP, you can connect with other Rotarians and peace committees. Tap into the expertise of our Global Peace Fellow alumni community through the new Peace Hub map. So, the world isn't that scary after all, because peace is you, and you are Rotary. Go wage peace.
So that was put together by the Rotary Action Group for Peace. Joe, I'm sorry, I didn't give you a good attention to your question.
Obviously, that was important to watch. But yeah, I think part of human nature is that we have conflict. And although there aren't any major wars in the world today, there's a lot of small conflicts throughout Africa, the Middle East. The Chinese are building up their military like crazy. Of course, you got the North Koreans, you know, no reason for them to have any arms. They can barely feed themselves. So, and that's not to say that I don't believe it, and believe me, but there's still a lot of, I guess the undercurrents of human nature are still there for war and conflicts to go on.
True. This is still an emerging science. I'm talking about 100 years. I'm talking about the 21st century, making this a priority. Yeah.
I understand the holistic approach and support and value it. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. Are there conversations regarding the impact on terrorism or how it plays within this?
I really can't explain that too well. Certainly all peace building efforts don't work. I mean, some fail, some succeed. And when you get to the point of ordinance being delivered, it's really hard to go back to have peace discussions. It's hard, very hard. But I think it's applicable in that area. But it's not going to be going from bombs to suddenly having, oak leaves. It's going to take a lot of work with a lot of people to get people turned around. And I mean, our other 5 areas of focus help. Water, sanitation, maternal health, education is a big issue. A lot of these countries, people aren't educated well enough to really understand what's going on. They're just cannon fodder, I believe. This is not a done deal by any means, but I do think Rotary could have a big role in this. Any other questions or comments? I apologize for the technology. It was working at home phenomenal, and I had it working, I'm so fed up with technology anyway. Yeah.
Jim, I guess, my comment would be for Lisa on that is, through education, we can help de-radicalize people and help them understand that prosperity is a better goal to achieve. And yeah, we're not going to, how do you sit down with someone who is so bent on it's only their way? And that's where I guess the education of negotiators is to help them understand that here's a better way for your family and your people instead of what you're currently doing. Would you not rather prefer that? So I think that's the challenge of a peace negotiator. And that's not going to happen overnight. We're talking generations where we have to start with the children, start with education, to help them understand that this is the better way to achieve what you wish and still live up to your values that you currently practice.
Yeah. Yep.
Following up on Eric's point, does your committee, or particularly the national level, does it include people that represent cultures that are in conflict? Are there Muslims in your group? Are there...
Yes, the Rotary Action Group for Peace is a global entity, and so I don't know a lot of the leadership. I only met the people in the headquarters office, but it's a global effort like Rotary is. I couldn't tell you how many Muslims and all. I've spent a fair amount of time at the Muslim mosques in the Lehigh Valley in the last year, actually, to some other volunteer work. And
therefore, I think that's, it's very important that interchange occurs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, by the way, we don't bring white Americans into Colombia and do mediation. Mediators Beyond Borders is all culturally competent, culturally comfortable, local people doing the training and that kind of stuff. That's one of the key issues. We don't really have it within Rotary, a lot of those connections. That's why we use Mediators Beyond Borders. But you don't bring in Americans to solve this problem. This is a local cultural issue where we can only support it, I think. Good, well, we wrapped up a little early, Bert. I thought we'd run late, but we're a little bit early, it looks like. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Jim. If I can ask board members, if you could just join me up front here for a quick stand-up board meeting right after this meeting is over. I have one little piece of business I'd like to conduct with you. Just a couple of quick comments about peace and Rotary. You guys probably saw in my president's message this week the efforts that our current RI president is doing with his presidential conferences. Every president in Rotary has the flexibility to tailor their conferences however they want, and most of them only have 1 or 2. Risley decided this year he was going to have 6. and he was going to have peace as the redundant theme across all of them, with the other 5 areas of focus as the co-topic on 5 of them, and environmental sustainability paired with peace as the other. So it's getting a lot of attention at the highest levels. But you can participate in peace building efforts right here in our club. We have our Rotary Friendship Exchanges. Jim mentioned his experiences in Romania. I went to Turkey. I'm now very good friends with some culturally different people that I would never have an opportunity to interact with. And it's really helped broaden my understanding of their culture and theirs of ours. So I mean, it's really cool. The vocational training teams that we've done. We had the folks from Zambia here. We sent our Emmaus high school teachers there. All of that promotes understanding and goodwill and builds peace. We have another opportunity, though, that some of you might be able to participate in. We're going to have an incoming Rotary Youth Exchange student this year. It would be a huge help to the club if we could get some folks to step up to agree to host the student while they're here. We typically have 2 or 3 families that the student goes to on a sequential basis while they're here. It's a terrific opportunity to continue this peace building effort on a one-on-one level with a student from another country. So please consider that.
To go back and look at his.
All right, enough said. Let's stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have a great day.
Okay, right.